Welcome to this video on Literature Standard 9. We will discuss how an author uses source material in a specific work. We will be covering the core standards in literature, analyze how an author draws on and transforms source material in a specific work, e.g., how Shakespeare treats a theme or topic from Ovid or the Bible, and how a later author draws on a play by Shakespeare. We will be covering the following: analyzing how an author uses source materials in a specific work. You are already an expert reader. In your many years as a student, you have read hundreds of books, stories, and articles. You have become expert in reading literature, and this experience will help you develop your skills further. The skills you learn in this session should help you improve your reading skills. How do you analyze a work of literature? Analyzing is the act of separating the whole piece into parts in order to understand the whole piece. Any analysis of a literary work requires that the reader understands the intention of the work and how the theme is revealed. How does an author draw on and transform source material? Writers draw on source materials quite frequently. For example, H.G. Wells' literary influences for The Time Machine are numerous. The most obvious one being Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, written a century before The Time Machine. The Time Machine is a mix of stories from fantastic lands, including commentary on the current social questions in Britain. It also included cutting-edge scientific theories. Gulliver's Travel is also about faraway lands and a social commentary at the time of writing. Metamorphoses is a collection of poems written by Ovid. He selected myths that dealt with transformation of people, gods, and heroes into forces or features of nature. Metamorphoses was one of the most popular and influential literary works. As it was in his high school curriculum, Shakespeare may have read Metamorphoses. It was one of the most popular books of Elizabethan times. It was full of entertaining plots and moral lessons. Shakespeare's own texts are full of direct quotations and indirect references to Ovid. Midsummer's Night Dream includes the most direct references to Ovid. It retells the stories of Philomel and Pyramus and Thisbe. He also uses the name Titania for the Queen of the Fairies. Shakespeare's tragic character Macbeth has a lot in common with the tragic biblical figure King Saul. These men were exalted because of their ability and were destroyed by their success. Their tragic stories show how changing circumstances reveal existing character flaws and can eventually lead to destruction. When already existing character flaws surfaced, success destroyed Macbeth and King Saul. Macbeth is a Scottish general and a nobleman. He behaved very bravely and honorably in battle and was decorated for it. It is prophesied by 3 witches that he will become king. But when circumstances change, his greed reveals itself. He can't stop thinking about becoming king. He decides to murder the king in order to advance himself. He succeeds and becomes king, but it's not meant to be. His greed consumes him, and he kills his friend and the family of another friend. He is killed trying to defend his crown. The changing circumstances did not kill him, they merely allowed his fatal character flaws to surface. King Saul's story follows a similar pattern. Originally, King Saul's circumstances were quite humble, but God exalted him and made him king. When he became arrogant and disobeyed God's commands, God withdrew his favor from Saul. Saul, like Macbeth, died fighting for his kingdom. Shakespeare, being such a prolific writer, inspired many other authors. For example, in Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, the title is not the only thing inspired by Shakespeare. John the Savage endlessly quotes Shakespeare as if he'd never read anything else. The point of the novel seems to be that Shakespeare's vision of humanity, with all of its messy and complex emotions, can't fit into any utopian society. Many authors have used phrases from Shakespeare's works as titles for their own novels. Here is a list of just a few. Understanding where an author draws from is important to analyzing the literary piece. It can help you understand more of what you are reading. The source of inspiration for The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe was the raven in Charles Dickens' Barnaby Rudge. In the novel, Barnaby owns a pet raven who can speak. In the 5th chapter, the raven taps at a shutter, just like in Poe's poem. Poe drew inspiration from Charles Dickens and incorporated it into his own writing. Let's do an activity to further enhance your skills. Choose one of the following short stories and follow the link. Read it carefully and analyze it for a possible source. Are there any obvious references that you can find? Why would authors draw from other sources? Authors use all sorts of things for inspiration. Most people who write also enjoy reading. And in reading, it is possible to get your own ideas for a story of your own. How can I use this in my own writing? Sources can be used in many ways. You could emulate your favorite writer by writing your own version of their story, or you could go the other way and just use one idea for inspiration, making a whole new story of your own. The possibilities are endless. As a student, you're expected to know how a writer draws on the works of another author for source material. We've come to the end of our session. We have discussed how an author can use source materials. By the end of this session, you should know or be able to do the following. Analyze how an author uses source materials in a specific work. This information should help improve your reading comprehension skills. Good luck with your reading.